larger-than-life superstars. High production value, massive budgets, controversies, politics, feuds, beef, more abdominals than you can shake a stick at. I'm not talking about Hollywood, despite the massive sign behind me. I'm talking, of course, about WWE WrestleMania, which takes place this weekend here in Los Angeles, California. And there is some properly Hollywood stuff on the card. We finally get to see Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes for all the marbles. We get to see Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens take on the Usos. Logan Paul's going to be there facing off against Seth Rollins. Massive legends like Lita and Trish Stratus are on the card. And John Cena is opening the show on night one. We're going to talk through all of that and more on today's episode of The Run-In. Yes, here we are in Los Angeles, and as you can tell, it's not quite as warm as when we shot that glorious looking link at the Hollywood sign earlier. We've got coats on, we've got the fire on. It's not the comeback of Kane, it is just a fire pit. But heating things up, the man next to me, some people call him a fraud with a license to shill. Other people call him a world-class, unbiased journalist who asks the hard questions that no one else does. Here at BT Sport, we just call him our friend, Ariel Helwani. He's flown in, you're here in Los Angeles for WrestleMania 39, which of course takes place at the SoFi Stadium this weekend. How are you feeling ahead of this one?
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to be here. I'm a little perplexed as to why you called me a guest. I always thought that I was the co-host of the run-in, but I guess I'm just a guest around these parts.
I'm incredibly worried about my worth in this situation. Yeah. I have to try and downplay you on air.
Well, I do appreciate that. Also, I'd just like to say, I know a lot of the fans are upset that, some of the A-listers didn't turn up, as they say in the UK, for this here WrestleMania. But guess what? The folks at BT Sport called upon the A-plus lister, baby! WrestleMania 39. It's live. Can't wait to talk about it.
Let's talk about the build-up to this WrestleMania first off, because it's been really good. Every week we've been sort of getting massive pops, massive returns of John Cena, or you've got Rey Mysterio punching Dominic after all these years. What's been your highlight of the build-up?
Oh my gosh. I don't know if I could pick one. What I love so much about this is sometimes in the past, WrestleManias have felt a little bit thrown together, cobbled together, in large part because there's so many premium live events, there's so many shows, so many hours of programming. This one, if you look at all the big matches, right, the most anticipated matches, they've all had month-long or year-long builds. Obviously, the big one, Roman and Cody. That's been for a few months, but really, like, the Cody story has been years in the making, right? Sami and KO against the Usos, that's been a year in the making. Finn and Edge, that's been a long one. Like, there's so Dominic and Rey, that's been a year as well. So
a lifetime.
A lifetime. So there are so many that it feels like we've been on this roller coaster that we're emotionally invested in. That makes for the best kind of WrestleMania, and so I'm very pleased. Comparing it to last year's WrestleMania, which felt a lot more cobbled together, this one, the first of the Triple H era, if you will, feels like a home run leading up to it Saturday and Sunday. All
right, let's start off strong. Let's go with the Raw Women's title match, Bianca Belair versus Asuka. And Asuka's come back. Obviously, at the Royal Rumble, she came back with the new / sort of old gimmick, kind of similar to how she was in Japan. And the only thing really missing from her career, she's won everything, but she hasn't got that big marquee WrestleMania win yet. Bianca Belair, she's got wins all over the place, loads of huge wins. Asuka hasn't had that huge WrestleMania moment yet. Do you think this is going to be the one for her?
I wonder. I have liked the new old Asuka, kind of like a fresh coat of paint, pardon the pun, because of the face paint on her career. And she's, in many respects, like, some might say, like, the most reliable women's wrestler in the locker room right now. Like, she's just so good, and she's a veteran, but I feel like they have too much invested in Bianca, and Bianca's had a great run. Of course, it pretty much started last WrestleMania, right, with that great match. They stole the show, Becky and her did, and I feel like there's just a lot more invested in her, and I feel like she has become somewhat like the face of their women's division, if you will. Her, Charlotte, like that three-headed monster, it feels like she's at the top right now. So I think this is going to be a great match. I think that they're gonna mesh very well, but ultimately I feel like this is another showcase for Bianca Belair.
Where do you think the Bianca thing ends? If she beats Asuka on Saturday or Sunday, we don't know which night they're on yet, I don't think, but where do you think it ends in that case? Because Asuka is so strong, and it's like they've given themselves another chance at her. I think maybe when they first brought her in, they're like, oh, she's the strongest, female competitor they've ever had. She was a dominant force, and then all of a sudden she had a couple of losses. I think it was at WrestleMania, in fact. And then even though she was still popular, maybe the wheels fell off a little bit in terms of momentum. This is the chance to completely reignite her, and Bianca maybe needs a little bit of time as the challenger again, just to freshen up her sort of relationship with the fans.
I kind of feel like we might see maybe not a Roman Reigns type of run out of Bianca, but I really think they want to make her into a dominant force. And I think just having a great match reignites Asuka. I don't think she necessarily needs to win that belt. To me, showcase of the Immortals, granddaddy of them all, the biggest stage, the biggest weekend. Who do they have more invested in? Who is someone that they want to make even stronger and more popular? I feel like it's Bianca, and I think she's earned that spot, and she deserves it, and she's been fantastic for them. I just feel like I get what you're saying about the fresh coat, but I just feel like she's the shoe in here. Maybe I'm crazy, but it feels like another opportunity to really prop her up.
You said the word showcase. That's going to move me on to the 2 WrestleMania showcase tag matches. In the men's division, we've got Braun Strowman and Ricochet versus the Viking Raiders versus Street Profits versus Alpha Academy. Let's start with that one.
Yeah.
There's 8 guys in there that have had really good years and are really consolidating things. But I guess with the Usos, that tag division, it's kind of having to survive in a sort of unique way, with the Usos tied up at the top with the Bloodline angle. Great to see all of these guys getting a spot on the WrestleMania card, and it's 8 guys that we're going to put on a show.
Sure. There's no real story attached to this. This would be in the kind of cobbled together category, but the entertainment category, this one is in there 100% because all of those guys are going to perform. It'll be somewhat of like a car crash, if you will. It'll be crazy. I have to say, I remember when we did the pre-show last April in Arlington with Montez Ford, right, and Angelo Dawkins. And if you would have told me a year later that Montez would kind of be in the same spot, I would have said there's no chance. I thought for sure he'd be going up for the IC belt or something like that. So a part of me is just a little bit disappointed that he hasn't been able to take that next step, and I don't think it's any fault of his own. I would like in the next year, between now and the next WrestleMania 40, that he takes that next step. And it doesn't necessarily have to be him turning on Angelo. They could go their separate ways. So again, he's the guy that I'm looking forward to the most. He, in my opinion, is the biggest star here. Him and Ricochet going back and forth in some kind of crazy acrobatic situation would be a lot of fun.
Yeah. And then the women's showcase, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, Natalya and Shotzi, Ronda Rousey and Shayna, and Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville. Again, it's big names, and people like Liv and Raquel have had massive years, and it's good to see them on WrestleMania card, but I'm sure maybe there's a little part of them that's frustrated that it's in this match.
Absolutely. I mean, Liv just a few months ago was champ, right, of SmackDown. They've put her in a lot of tag situations, and she's been forced to adapt, but she's still very, very popular. It seems like the fans love her. But as you said, Ronda's in this match, Shayna's in this match. There are big names in this match, but really, like this one also, it's they used to do it with the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. It's going to be fun. It just doesn't have the same emotional investment that we have with some of these other, like Dominic and Ray. Like that one, we have been watching this for so long unfold. This is just a fun match. There's no way it's going to be a stinker. It just doesn't have the stakes that some of these other matches have.
I was going to say, how do you feel about having these 2 matches sort of in lieu of the Andre Battle Royal?
I always love the Andre Battle Royal on WrestleMania Day. I'm a bit of an old school guy. Honestly, I'm a bit of an old school guy when it comes to one night versus 2 nights. Like, I like the one night you see the set and that's it. But, I mean, from a business standpoint, it's unbelievable. They're selling out twice. And 70,000, like some crazy number. So don't listen to me. No one's taking my economic advice. But I always love that Andre WrestleMania situation. It's a big opportunity for someone to get over and get the trophy. Now they do it on SmackDown, right, on the Friday. It's not the worst thing in the world, but if I were, even put it on the pre-show. They used to do that a little bit as well. I always like that. I'm a fan of Battle Royals. Remember WrestleMania 2, there was a big Battle Royal. Andre won that one. And one of my favorite WrestleMania moments of all time, by the way, is actually where I fell in love with this guy, the jacket that I'm wearing, the excellence of executioner, the man himself, Bret Hart, WrestleMania 4, him and Bad News Brown are the last 2 left in the ring. Bad News double crosses him. That was a battle royal. And so I kind of grew up with the battle royals, and I would like it to be on the actual card, but alas, no one listens to me.
One thing 2 nights does give us is the opportunity at 2 main events. And
that's true.
Let's talk about the tag match, which we don't actually know. It's not being confirmed, but general popular consensus would suggest that Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens taking on the Usos for their tag championships that they've held for an incredibly long time. The storyline has been the thing that's been most talked about for 9-10 months. You think when we were back at Royal Rumble, everyone thought, are they actually going to do it with Sami? Are they going to make it happen? And then I think there was a corner of the fan base that was almost disappointed that they weren't going with Sami versus Roman at Mania, but had the Elimination Chamber night. At the time, I personally was a little bit sceptical about the tag match, but the closer and closer it's got, I thought, do you know what, we all kind of knew what was happening and where they were going with it, but I'm still really looking forward to it now. And I feel personally like it should probably be the main event. Do you think so?
Well, I think 1,000% if I was in charge, I would make it the main event of night one, because then, okay, first of all, there's so much that I want to say about this, and I'm so excited to talk about it. It's been one of my favorite things that they've done, and the way they pivoted from Sami in the main event slot with Roman to this, and even after Chamber in Montreal, they didn't give it to us right away. There was the reluctance, right, between KO and Sami, who's going to trust who, and even Jay. Like, all of it was just incredible. I have a hot take for all of you right here. This to me...
I hope it is, because
I know.
It's not doing the job. Yeah,
100%. This to me is the most important and the most anticipated tag match in WrestleMania history since WrestleMania 1. The main event had Hulk Hogan and Mr. T, Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff. Think about that. WrestleMania 1, 1985, Madison Square Garden. And I know what you're thinking. What about TLC? What about this? What about that? What about TLC 2? This is a pure, old school, old-fashioned tag match. There's no gimmicks. There's no nothing. It's team versus team. It's brothers versus brothers, right? And it's tied to the main event scene. The tag belts have never felt bigger, have never felt more important. Why wouldn't you put it in the main event? To main event WrestleMania, night one, with a tag team title match. Imagine a few years ago when they were essentially dissolving those belts, right? Look how far we've come. I love everything about this. I hope they do it, because could you imagine if the Usos lose on Saturday, which I think would be the move. Now you go into Sunday with Roman with the two belts, but he's got to do it for the whole stable, right? And then if he loses, now you've got a whole situation where the bloodline is in shambles. It would be perfect. It's been great the way they did it, and I think, do you disagree? Like, can you think of a more anticipated and important tag title match in WrestleMania history? Don't throw out some rant. I said this on Twitter. I got some people being like, well, what about back in when these guys? I don't want to say any names, but I was like, you freaking marks. What are you talking about? This is WrestleMania. I'm not talking about WCW Thunder circa 1997. We're talking about the granddaddy of them all, for goodness sakes.
No, absolutely. Completely agree with you. And the amount of different stories going into it, it's not only the Usos being brothers and headlining WrestleMania. It's not only everything that's happened with the bloodline. It's not only being tied to the title match on the Sunday night. It's not only Cody getting involved, Roman being involved, Paul Heyman probably about, Solo Sikoa being involved. The Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens story of where they've been to where they could end up on potentially Saturday night main event, that in itself is one of those things that only really wrestling can throw up. And it's why people like professional wrestling. Is the thought of these guys wrestling in front of 6 people in Montreal and then making it all the way, and they've fought each other on big stages before, but never anything quite this big. And the thought of those two hugging it out at the end of that night with the titles.
To end
Imagine.
the night one. I have chills. I mean, obviously, it's a bit of a personal one, the Montreal connection and whatnot, but also it's somewhat personal to this region, right? Because they kind of exploded on the international indie scene here in Los Angeles with PWG. So there's a great story to be told there as well. It's beautiful stuff. And look, the Usos deserve all the credit in the world. They are one of the best tag teams of the last decade, 2 decades, all time. You can make that case. And they have made those belts feel important again. And for a while, like I said, they didn't feel important. But I feel like it would be nice to see the shoe on the other foot now. See them being the challengers, right? The ones having to climb the mountain. And what better duo? 2 guys who for the last few years have been at odds, but we know deep down they love each other. To see them reign supreme would be a great way to end night 1 going into night 2.
All right, well, me and Ariel are just going to take 3 minutes to order our WrestleZania shirts.
Yes.
We'll see you after the break. Welcome back to part 2 of the WrestleMania preview run-in episode. Night 1, opening the show, a certain Mr. John Cena challenges for the US title, Austin Theory. Let's open this half like he'll be opening that show. An enormous opportunity for Austin Theory, someone who's looked like he was elevating the ranks of the WWE roster massively, then had a sort of quite chastening experience going promo to promo with John Cena, but now has this amazing opportunity on Saturday night. How have you seen the build-up to this one?
Well, first of all, I'm very surprised that it's opening the weekend. Does Cena have a
Cena's
movie
got
set?
plans, yeah.
Yeah, does he have a movie set to get to? Holy smokes. But it's kind of cool. It's different. I did not expect it. Remember last year, Austin Theory had the big match against Pat McAfee, and Vince McMahon was involved. And I think a lot of people thought with Vince stepping away that his spot would diminish. And here we are, him versus John Cena for the U.S. title, a big spot for Austin Theory. I think Austin has to win this. I think, why would John need the belt, and he's going to go away, and it's a big opportunity for him to put over Austin Theory, as they say. I think it's been great. The best feuds, the best promos are the ones where you're like, ooh, are they really actually, keeping it real? Is this a shoot? Is this a work? And they've had some of those moments. I think it's been fantastic. I've enjoyed it. I think it's been a good spot for him.
How did you find that promo when John Cena really went in?
I loved it.
Austin Theory, you loved it.
By the way, it kind of reminded me of Cena and The Rock from back in the day, from like about 10 years ago, right? Did you like it?
Well, everyone was showing Cena, when it comes to the promo thing, generally comes out on top, right? And the Rock one you mentioned, when the Rock had his notes written on his hand, there's obviously a chasm between Rock and Austin Theory.
Sure.
Austin Theory's career's only young, but it was an experience that maybe something it reminded me more of is when John Cena and Roman Reigns were feuding, and Roman kind of clammed up a little bit.
It's tough. It's tough.
And now look at him.
I mean, John Cena has 20 plus years of experience in these moments, right?
I mean, what, 10 years in Hollywood as well, right? 10 years in
That
Hollywood.
too. So it's almost impossible to ask Austin to go toe to toe with him. But in the ring, I think it will be a really fun match.
Yeah, and in the ring, Austin Theory's talent is undoubted. There's a reason he's had the opportunities that he's had over the last year. Speaking of someone incredibly talented in the ring, Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley. Charlotte, certainly in the top 3 in-ring female performers of all time. Probably in the top 3 in-ring performers in the whole WWE roster. And Rhea Ripley, it's a rematch of that WrestleMania 36. But looking at where she was then to where she is now since she's joined Judgment Day and has kind of embraced that darker side, she looks like she's destined for greatness, certainly on Saturday night. Yeah,
I have to say, Charlotte is incredible. I prefer her as a heel. And so this has been, I think, a little bit challenging, right?
How do you think the crowd are going to react on the night? Because the WrestleMania crowd can be, what do you want to call it, like a smart crowd?
Yeah. I prefer her as a heel, and so I'm wondering about that reception. Rhea has been fantastic. To me, this, and I'd love to get your thoughts, this is the spot to put Rhea over, to have Rhea beat, a legend like Charlotte Flair. I actually kind of wish that the Judgment Day was a little bit more involved in this feud as well, right? Like Rhea is, as we've talked about in the past, sort of like the second coming or our generation of China. And when China was involved, DX often was involved, or at least she had someone by her side. Now, with the Judgment Day, Rhea to me is the MVP, and she's the strongest of the bunch with 3 other male competitors by her side, and it would be cool if she was leading the charge and they were her backup against someone like Charlotte. I think that would make Charlotte seem like a badass. It would make Rhea seem like a badass. Hasn't been the case. All good. Looking forward to this match. I think they're going to have a great match together. I'd love to see Rhea get the belt and go on a run with it, because I think, honestly, if the Bloodline loses, if they lose the tag team titles, and if they lose in the main event on Sunday, all of a sudden you have Rhea with the belt, and maybe Finn beats Edge. I know we're going to get to that. Now all of a sudden, Judgment Day seems a lot stronger than they are going into this weekend.
All right. Well, someone who's seemed incredibly strong the last year or so is Gunther. Since he's made his debut on the main roster, he has been tearing through everyone that he's come across, and this amazing Intercontinental title run is possibly coming to an end at WrestleMania against Sheamus and Drew McIntyre. Ariel caught up with Gunther to see how he was doing ahead of this, the biggest show of his life.
I know you were a fan growing up. Like you just said, you've wanted to do this for a long time. And so now here we sit, you're holding that IC belt. It's the Honky Tonk Man, it's Randy Savage, and you, in terms of the longest reigning champions. Is that, can you take a step back and just be like, holy smokes, those 2 legends and me? Like, that's pretty incredible.
Oh, it is, yeah, 100%.
Does that blow you away?
No, it doesn't blow me away because it doesn't.
You're unflappable.
It doesn't. No, but it doesn't feel like it, if that makes sense, right? Because you grew up with all those names, and out of nowhere, you're in the mix of it, and it feels a little bit like a guest appearance, if that makes sense. But from a distance, obviously, it is. Yeah, it's great. It's amazing to see that and just be able to do my part in the history of that championship is, it's a privilege, I think, and I take that very serious.
Those two guys were champions in the 80s. That belt meant a lot in the 80s, 90s as well. Obviously, WrestleMania 3, a great moment between Macho Man and Ricky Steamboat. But let's be honest, over the last decade, the importance of the belt went down a little bit. When you got it, was it part of the mindset like, I'm going to make this feel important again? I'm going to bring value back to this belt. Did you think of that at all?
Yes, 100%. That was my approach. I was like, I get that opportunity now, and I'm gonna make the absolute most out of that. Like, make it mean something again. Because you're right, like the last years, it wasn't a very popular presented title. But often it is on the one that holds the title to make that change again, and I was successful doing that. I think when people talk about the Intercontinental Championship match on the card, it's seen in a very different light than it was in the last years.
Gunther there, probably a lot of people's pick, a nomination to be the next real dominant player in the roster. If you look to the future, he's the one that you can see believably being a long-term champion. I know he's done it with the Intercontinental title. I think he's got the 4th or 5th longest reign in that as it is, but you can see him really being at the top as that monster heel, can't you?
Oh, he's unbelievable. I'm such a huge fan of his, and he's done amazing work in making that belt seem important, just like the Usos have made the tag title seem important. And initially I thought, there's no way that he's going to lose. Not to Drew and Sheamus, two older guys who have been there, done that. But once they made it a triple threat match, and you can get away with him not being pinned, and you give Sheamus his moment, finally getting that IC belt that he couldn't secure back in Cardiff in September, it all kind of makes sense. And maybe now Gunther then, drops that and moves on and gets to the actual title picture, so to speak. I was really hoping to see Gunther versus Brock Lesnar on this card. Didn't happen. I think he's going to have many big matches to come, and this will be a stepping stone for him.
That Sheamus Intercontinental title reign, I feel like it's the longest running rib in wrestling, right? So many people have had that title, and Sheamus just can't seem to get it. He's had that opportunity enough times. Do you think this is it? This is when they're finally going to pull the trigger?
It kind of feels like because of the triple threat. Like, I don't think it made sense to have Sheamus beat Gunther, but now it's triple threat. You have Sheamus pin Drew. They can have a little feud afterwards for the IC belt, their 1 millionth feud against each other, and Gunther can move on to the belts. Obviously, we'll get to the actual world title picture in a moment, but even if they split the belts at some point, I would think that he would be a fresh guy to be in that picture.
Do you think all the belts mean a bit more than they have done for a long while? You look at, they're all quite long title reigns. Obviously, Roman Reigns, 1,000 days, whatever it is. The Usos, forever. Gunther, the 4th longest reign of all time. Bianca, I believe a year.
Yeah.
Every single title change now looks like it might be a bit more significant. Do you think Gunther's been a big part of that?
1,000%. I am a big fan of long title reigns. Like, I talk about this in MMA all the time. And people's like, oh, I want to see someone go 9, 10, 11 defenses in a row, or a year, 2 years. Like, I've had no problems with Roman Reigns' run. I didn't think that it had to end, except for in Montreal.
Except for Montreal,
I mean, that was
no bias there.
Lone exception, but that was only a month ago. Point is, to me, it makes the belt seem more important. When it's getting passed around like a hot potato, like it was like back in 10 or so years ago on a random Raw, the belt is being, defended and then lost. It didn't feel important. So I love that. I think the line, by the way, according to the odds makers, is currently at like 4.5 title changes for the entire weekend. I think we'll get less than that. And that just speaks to how important these belts have been and how much they have been like kind of investing in long title reigns to make the belts feel important.
And a massive shout out and mention to Drew McIntyre, of course. He's still waiting for his big moment in front of the crowds. He was robbed of that moment at the lockdown WrestleMania. He then lost to Lashley when the crowds were back. He then didn't get to win against Roman in Cardiff, which was heartbreaking. That was our Montreal. And now this could be the one in LA feels like a huge WrestleMania because it's WrestleMania Goes Hollywood. But one thing that you can guarantee with Drew is that this match is going to be enormously entertaining and massively physical.
Oh, absolutely. I don't think he gets his moment, though. And I don't know if this is the moment that he's been waiting for and that he deserves, by the way. It's one of the great travesties of the last few years, obviously from a sporting perspective, not from a worldly perspective. I'm not crazy. But the fact that he didn't get that opportunity in front of a 80,000 or so, capacity crowd in Tampa is something that I think that he will lament for the rest of his life. Bad timing. He got the moment. It was very unique. I hope for his sake, before his time is done in this sport, that he gets that moment again.
Okay. Well, we'll talk more about WrestleMania after the break. Welcome back to the run-in, where we are in Los Angeles looking ahead to WrestleMania 39 at the SoFi Stadium. And let's start this part with Trish Stratus, Lita, Becky Lynch versus Damage Control. The star power in this match is outrageous. I'm sure perhaps Becky and Bayley may have wanted to be involved in the title pictures, but what they've got,
this is pretty damn cool.
To be with their heroes like that is pretty special.
Oh, it's great. I remember us speaking to Bayley in San Antonio like a month and a half or so ago, and her talking about Lita being an inspiration and one of her idols, and now she's in this feud with Lita. Love everything about it. And honestly, when I saw Becky and Lita win the belts, I was like, man, that would have been a WrestleMania moment. That was before we knew Trish would get involved, and now adding Trish, my fellow Canadian, to this mix has been great. What a great opportunity for Damage Control. What a cool thing to see, legends like Lita and Trish come back and be in a match like this. So yeah, this has been a lot of fun, and it's kind of been fun to see Becky kind of be a fan a little bit, right? Like not have to be so tough and mean and you could just see she's having such a great time as well. And by the way, making those belts feel a little important, like those belts have kind of been devalued over the past year. That's been really cool. So yeah, it's been great.
Amazing for Bayley. I remember she spoke in that interview with you about the opportunity to bring people up with her, and obviously Dakota Kai, Io Sky are now in this opportunity. Of course, it's not just Becky and Bayley's heroes. I'm sure it's theirs as well, and it's kind of Bayley's plans with those guys coming to fruition. They get this huge opportunity and very much stake their claim as the future.
And also kind of indicative and symbolic of the past year in WWE, right? Like these individuals were nowhere to be found this time last year. Now they're in a, like, imagine us talking in Arlington about this, right? Yeah. And that's been kind of the theme, especially since July. So very cool for them. They've been a fun faction. I know some people would like to see them get more, this, that, and the other. End of the day, they're going to be in the ring with Trish Stratus, Becky Lynch, and Lita on Saturday or Sunday. That's massive for their careers.
And that Trish Stratus,
it's a tough
easy
one
to say, yeah. And Lita, a main event in Raw. So many of the women on the roster talk about that moment being what made them think that this could happen.
Yes.
And now you look on the card and there's 3 big women's matches, and of course the showcase as well. I imagine backstage they'll be getting a lot of love, those two, and a lot of thank you allowed this to happen.
The words pioneer, trailblazer sometimes get thrown around. They are pioneers, they are trailblazers, especially for the new era, from the Divas era and then on to, just women's wrestling, the revolution, so to speak, in WWE. And honestly, there is no revolution without them. Like, I know we talk about this person, that person, like there's no embryonic stages of that without those two. And so it's pretty damn cool to see in the back end. By the way, I don't know off the top of my head how old they are. They're in phenomenal shape for their ages. They look like they never left. It's pretty damn amazing.
Okay, let's talk about Brock Lesnar versus Omos. And I can't tell you, Ariel, how excited I am
for real?
This one. Genuinely.
You're kidding.
No word of a lie.
Really?
I remember telling you, I think maybe Royal Rumble last year in St. Louis, I remember telling you, there is nothing I enjoy more than 2 big blokes just crashing into each other.
Wow.
I think forget the art of professional wrestling. I just like large things colliding. And this is absolutely what this match is going to be. And do you know what? I love Omos. I think you spoke to him before.
Yeah.
We've interviewed him before. Brock, we know what Brock is. Brock is like this absolute megastar, like arguably the greatest combat sport athlete of all time in the way that he's cross disciplines. Did what he did in UFC and then was such a star in WWE. But like the fact that he's allowed for this opportunity to happen with Omos, he's allowed Omos to throw him out the ring. He must see there's something there. And I think the people backstage at WWE are seeing something there with Omos. And I tell you what, I think there's something there because he's huge, and I think that's great.
MVP has been a great addition to his orbit. So if you're in charge, who wins? Because that's the tricky one, right?
That is difficult. But
Why
the one prediction is I don't think there's going to be a moonsault.
Well, yes. But why not go, if you're going to allow this to happen, why can't we, does Brock need the win over Omos?
Absolutely not, because Brock's had all those title runs now. He's probably done
I'll
with that,
be on
right?
board with, I'll be honest, like if you give me my top 10 most anticipated matches of the weekend, this ain't in the top 10. But if after...
It's in my top one.
You sell it. But after this is all said and done on Saturday or Sunday, whenever this match happens, and Omos wins, I'll be like, all right, now I get it. Now I liked it. But if it's a DQ, if it's a count out, if it's a Brock win, I'm out.
Oh, just wait to hear that Omos music at the end of that match. You can look from the other side of the stage and you'll see me jumping up and down. I'll be going mad for it. We also have a Hell in a Cell match at WrestleMania. Edge versus Finn Balor. Like you said, this one's been building for a long time. I imagine a bit of a dream match for Finn Balor to have this opportunity, but also the return of the Demon. Thoughts on that?
Okay, first of all, I love the Demon. The walkout, the entrance is one of the very best in the entire industry, and I'm so happy that it's back. Can I go a little inside baseball with you for a moment? Last year in Dallas, we were in the American Airlines Center, at the American Airlines Center, watching SmackDown, right? The night before the first night of WrestleMania. And a member of our team named Rob, not you, is a massive Ricochet fan. And I remember saying to him on that Friday night SmackDown, I can't believe this guy and I can't believe Finn Balor are not at WrestleMania. They're having a big match on the Friday before. How do you not have a spot for these guys, right? Well, we know that Ricochet is going to be involved in the showcase, great. And look at the spot that Finn Balor is in. One of the most underutilized, underrated wrestlers, in my opinion, on the roster. He's incredible. The Demon character is amazing. And I love that he's getting this chance against Edge in Hell in a Cell. This is great. This is amazing. Again, indicative of the past few months in WWE. I remember distinctly watching them and being like, these guys are too good to not be at WrestleMania. I'm glad that they're getting their chance at WrestleMania.
Do you think this is Edge's last WrestleMania?
Well, it seems like it's all coming to a head for August in Ontario, but we know in wrestling, you know, there's guys who have said, I'm done, and then 20 years later, they're having their retirement match at a bingo hall in Tennessee. I'm kidding. I'm not trying to offend anyone. Chill the hell out. Point is, maybe, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's not.
All right, then. Let's move on to Logan Paul versus Seth Rollins.
Oh, baby.
And we had a very special episode of Ariel Meets with Logan Paul that you'll be able to watch tomorrow on BT Sport YouTube as well as BT Sport 1. Let's take a sneak peek at that now.
Remember we spoke right before that debut and you were like, yeah, I just trained a couple times, this and that. You know the term kayfabe? You've heard this term now?
People have been throwing it around. I don't know what that means.
Kayfabe is like, it's an old school carny pro wrestling term where, you know, like the Undertaker always respected kayfabe. You never saw him out of character, right? It was always the same guy. So like, I feel like you were kayfabing me. You told me I trained twice, and then you show up to Mania and you're doing frog splashes and all this stuff. I don't believe it. I believe you've been training for years leading up to this. There's no way that you could be this good at it with a couple of training sessions under your belt.
I don't practice.
You don't practice?
Ever.
How is it possible that you're so good at it?
I've had 2 practices. I swear to God, 2. That's it. I don't know. I have no idea.
In the past year, you've only had 2.
I've probably practiced with the intention of I'm practicing to be a better wrestler twice. Yeah.
That doesn't freak you out?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. You know, it's weird. That's what I'm saying. I don't know what's going on, dude. I have no idea what's going on. I think wrestling in high school and like doing stunts my whole life and having a really high pain tolerance and an energy towards live entertainment helps, and I'm good with pressure. Like, for some reason, you know, knock on wood, I haven't like flubbed really yet. Like when I go to do those springboards and I look down, I'm always afraid my feet are gonna not be in the right spot or I'm gonna slip, and I'm sure it'll happen, but it hasn't happened yet. And it's like, man, it's like I truly feel like God kind of gave me this weird ability to do this sport at a relatively easy level for me. I don't know.
Have you surprised yourself?
Yeah. I when I watch back the matches after doing them, I can't believe it's me. As like a viewer,
Yeah.
excuse me, as a creator who often has to separate himself from the content he's making so I can have a unbiased perspective when I view it, whether it's giving notes on a video or providing feedback to another creator, a friend, or whatever. Like, I'm sort of used to removing myself, and I watch my matches entertained.
There he is, Logan Paul. Never a man short of words. Always interesting, isn't he? And has pretty much turned up in WWE and been phenomenal. And I'm so confident that this match is going to be brilliant.
Oh, blown away by what he's done. Remember, it was last WrestleMania that he debuts, and he's imitating Eddie Guerrero, and he's having that amazing match. Turns on The Miz. Kind of bummed that we never got a payoff to that. I always felt like they should have done that, but I like this version of Logan Paul a lot. The build has been really fun. It dates back to Royal Rumble. They've done a great job with it. And what about this extra added wrinkle to this whole thing? Earlier this week on his podcast, Impulsive, he just drops the hint that this is the last match, the last date on his current contract, on his rookie contract, as he put it. So now you're wondering, you know, this guy's busy with his drink, he's busy with his boxing, his other endeavors. Is this it for him? Is he going to be just this guy who showed us all that he could do this, and then he's out? Feels like that adds a little bit, you know, because I was wondering who's going to go over here, who's going to win, who should win. Now I'm even more intrigued in this match. And what about Seth Rollins? I mean, you could put him in there against anyone at this point. Kind of like who Chris Jericho was a few years ago for WWE. He's become that guy, Mr. Dependable. Can't wait for this.
He's had one of the great rookie years.
Oh my God.
And it's obviously been sort of quite fleeting appearances. It's not like back in the day when they're wrestling every single week and picking up titles and things. But a few of his highlights: WrestleMania 38 with The Miz and the Mysterios, as you mentioned. SummerSlam versus The Miz. Crown Jewel versus Roman Reigns, and that incredible dive with his phone, taking a selfie at the same time. The return at the Royal Rumble, and now this match again at WrestleMania. I don't think there's been many that have taken to wrestling quite like that.
He's an unbelievable athlete. I think we all thought, okay, you know, the boxing thing was cool, but you know, some of the jumps and the moves in the ring, it's almost to the point, if I'm being honest, where I don't believe that he's a rookie. Like, I feel like he's been training for 5 years. How is this possible? How could you be so good at this, such a natural at this? Really blown away by what he's done. The Reigns match was better than I think anyone thought it was going to be, and then I thought, you know, I think most people thought he'd be out for this WrestleMania when we first heard about the knee injury. Look at him now. The build has been fun, and what a perfect guy to put him in there against, right? Seth is just perfect for him. So I can't wait for it. I'm really excited about this.
Do you think Jake Paul will turn up? His brother, who's obviously had all those big moments in the boxing ring.
I'm going to say no. I know that he's been brought up here and there. It felt like it made more sense against Roman because of the family. This one, it doesn't feel like it makes any sense.
Okay, then. Well, in the final part of the show, we will, of course, be talking about that huge match for all the marbles, Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes. We'll be back in just a bit. Welcome back to Los Angeles and welcome back to The Run-In. We are talking about WrestleMania. Of course, I am joined still by Ariel Helwani next to the fire pit.
Which doesn't work.
I've pulled
This
him for a
is
chat
fake.
at the fire pit.
This fire pit is fake.
If you lean far enough,
I
it might
guess.
work. But look, we don't want to be the new Undertaker and Kane, do we? So let's not do that. Speaking of families in wrestling, yes,
my.
Undertaker and Kane are definitely related, by the way. A family that's just as related as those two, definitely, wink, wink. Rey and Dom. Rey Mysterio, Dominic Mysterio, facing off. They've been teasing it, they've been teasing it. Rey's got his Hall of Fame. Dominic's been thorn in his side for months. The Judgment Day's happened. Dominic's become one of the most hated guys in the ring, getting incredible heat every time he comes to the ring. He's been to prison, definitely, wink, wink.
Yeah.
It's actually built itself into a really, really interesting and great rivalry, and something that they told you last year in July that would never happen.
Amazing. And shortly thereafter, the turn happened. So I felt like they were working us there. But that was a pleasure to sit down with them. And who would have thunk that even if Dominic did turn, that it would turn out this good. This has been great. This has been old school storytelling at its finest. I've loved everything about it. Dominic has turned into a star. He's done so well.
Most improved this year? Do you think most improved
honestly,
WWE superstar?
You can make a very strong case. He's on the short list, in my opinion, for MVPs as well. Maybe he's not the guy, but he's certainly in that top 5 because he's just been so entertaining. And you know what was great about it? we knew that we were going in this direction, but they didn't quite give it to us right away. Sort of like Sammy and KO teaming up. It was like, nah, Ray doesn't want to do it. Nah, he doesn't want to do it. And then finally the explosion in Las Vegas with the family involved, with his wife, with his daughter involved. It's been amazing. And there's a part of me, Ray's doing great and he's getting inducted. And there's a part of me that wonders if this should culminate with Ray losing and taking off the mask and giving it to Dominic. But Dominic has been doing so well with Judgment Day, maybe it's too soon.
The sirens here.
How rude!
They're going
Interrupting
to
me as I'm
lock you
talking
up
about this.
for that suggestion.
Yes. You don't
Dominic,
like it?
I don't think they can do the mask thing now.
Yeah.
I think that what they've made with Dominic, and there are people in Judgment Day. We spoke to Finn Balor in Boston in November at Survivor Series. And Finn Balor, someone who's been around the business for however long, he's a Universal Champion. He was saying that he doesn't need to worry about Judgment Day getting heat because he's got Dominic there. Rhea and Finn and even Damian Priest to a point, they're all quite popular. But the fact that Dominic is there is what's getting them booed.
It's unbelievable. It's really unbelievable because he was kind of like this, he was like this cute vanilla good guy, right? This babyface, ultra babyface. And to see him turn into this, it's really been a revelation.
I honestly, when we sat down and spoke to him and they were the tag champions, obviously it worked. It was the purest babyface team you could possibly imagine, Hall of Famer and his son, and with a sort of crowd pleasing style in the ring, obviously the Lucha Libre style. The fact that they've managed to flip it this much, there is no part of me, I'll be honest, there was no part of me that when we spoke to Dominic, when I spoke to him before, I thought, he's so nice. This industry is not cut out for him. It's not cut out for him. Shows what I know. Shows I know absolutely nothing, because this year he's shown all it took was turn into the dark side.
It's I can't wait for the storytelling in this match. I can't wait to see how they mesh. I can't wait to see what Dominic does. I can't wait to see what a special moment for Rey Mysterio, one of the true good guys in this sport, legend, soon to be Hall of Famer. This is a guy that we've seen quite legitimately grow up also in front of us, Rey Mysterio, and then we've seen Dominic literally grow up in front of us. What a roller coaster this has been. And it's another one that you almost forget. You're like, oh yeah, and there's this one, and there's this one, and there's Ray versus Dominic, the one that we were all like, how cool would that be? But they're not actually going to do it. They freaking did it. Unbelievable.
All right, then, let's move on to the main event. Undisputed WWE Universal Championship. Roman Reigns, the leader of the Bloodline, the Tribal Chief, against Cody Rhodes. Can he finally finish the story?
Yes. He has to. This is the moment. We've all been wondering over the past year, is it going to be this guy? Is it going to be that guy? Is it going to be this guy? This is a story, again, that has been building since he returned last April, Cody Rhodes, but really since he left WWE, right? When he left, it was a little bit shocking. Would he be able to reinvent himself? Would he be able to have a successful career? A lot of people thought it was a huge mistake. He did the thing on the indies. He did the thing with the other promotions. He did the thing rebuilding himself, right? It's been unbelievable. And now he comes back and he looks great and he's hot and he's popular and he gets injured and you think, oh no, it's going to come crashing down. He comes back and he's popular and he's hot. And then you think, oh no, Sami Zayn, right? And I certainly was one of those people. But he's done a tremendous job over the last few months of making us go on this emotional journey with him. It feels real. It feels important. It feels like it will matter if he wins. This is the guy. This is the moment. And then on the flip side, to have Roman now as the challenger, I think would be really interesting. So yes, it has to happen.
Daniel Bryan, Sami Zayn, Goldberg, Demon Finn Balor and Finn Balor, Braun Strowman, Brock Lesnar, Rey Mysterio, Seth Rollins, Kevin Owens, John Cena, Jey Uso, Edge, Matt Riddle, Cesaro, Logan Paul, Drew McIntyre, all defeated by Roman Reigns. What do you think makes Cody the one?
Also, you didn't say Sami Zayn. How dare you?
I said him right at the beginning.
Come on, he deserves twice.
Okay, Sami Zayn twice.
He's a guy that they've now invested a lot in. And the story with his father, his late father, is just so great. And again, much like Dominic, I feel like we've been on this roller. We watched him grow up, right, in this business. It feels like this is the thread that completes this journey that we've been on since Arlington. And he shows up last April, night one, against Seth, and then he does the press conference, and he's emotional in the press conference. And it's just been such a great thing. By the way, if it's not Cody, who is it? there's literally no one left, right? There's no one left. This is the guy. It has to be the guy. And also, I think it's just another opportunity to make another main event guy, and they need as many of those as possible. If he's not good enough, if he's not main event worthy, championship worthy, face of WWE worthy, who is?
WrestleMania 29, 10 years ago. Brodus Clay, Tensai, and the Funkadactyls versus the Rhodes Scholars and the Bella Twins gets cancelled for time. And now look at him. That's, like you say, the story, the thread, everything. It's one of those WrestleManias where it's almost everything outside what's happening matters just as much as the storyline.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And I love that belt that he showed on Twitter with all the promotions that he worked for over those years where he was in this, this personal journey. It's just been great. And he's done it the right way. Like, he has brought us along, right? Like, when he talks, he talks about the fact that, like, the Cody Rhodes you see on TV is the same exact guy. He's not playing a character. And I believe it, because the stuff that he says on TV is the same stuff that he says in the interviews. And I know if you're a cynic, you'll be like, oh, well, he's just playing the character in the interviews. No, this is all real. This is his father he's talking about. This is the belt that he couldn't win. This is for his family. This is all this stuff. And so, yes, I was worried after Chamber, how are they going to get him involved, and how is it not going to fall on its face? And I think they've done a great job over the past 6 or so weeks to make us feel like, all right, this is the guy. It's all going to be okay.
If it all comes to an end for Roman Reigns on Sunday night, where does this reign rank in the pantheon of all the great reigns over the years?
It's up there. It's certainly up there. Is it number one? I'm not quite sure. But it's up there for multiple reasons. Number one, it started in the pandemic, right? It started at the Thunderdome, and they needed him. I remember that WrestleMania in 2020 where he's walking outside and he tells us that he's not going to compete, right? Because of his illness. And everyone, kicked him while he was down, and then he reemerges a few months later, and the reign begins then. And they needed a guy to take the ball and run with it. And who would have thought it would be in the era with no fans, alongside Paul Heyman of all people, that he was able to reinvent himself as one of the biggest draws in the history of the game. He's been incredible. But I do think all good things have to come to an end, and that's no indictment on him. I just really want to see him as the challenger for the first time in a really long time. He deserves so much credit for the way he's reinvented himself, for the way that he's lived up to all the expectations, and now maybe even exceeded the expectations that everyone had for him a few years ago. It's been a masterclass, and he deserves nothing but praise.
How much more does that title matter now than it did
both titles
5 years ago?
Both titles, right? I mean, he has had both for a year now, and I love it. I'm a big fan of just one belt, undisputed.
Do you think if Cody wins it, they'll use that as an opportunity? Because obviously it comes with everything about Cody Rhodes. It's this sort of wrestling nostalgia about him, isn't there? I've seen a few things in the week about, the return of the big gold belt. Do you think they'll use this as an opportunity to make it one belt again?
I would love that. I'm a big fan. I don't think you need two belts. I don't think you need...
it's been shown, right?
You don't need
how
it.
important it feels now.
You don't need it. You don't need it in any of the divisions. You don't need it anywhere. Even with the women, by the way, I'd prefer one champion. What do we always say in boxing, right? We want one undisputed champion. You hear that, Fury and Usyk? We want one champion, damn it. Point is, I want one champion in wrestling, in MMA, in boxing, in every kind of combat sport. And so in a situation where they can actually control the environment, give me one champion.
And if Cody wins, what next?
Well, I think then you get the rematch, right, at Backlash. And I'd love for my guy Sami Zayn to get another crack. We'll see how it all plays out. But look, you got options now, right? Gunther maybe up there as well. Cody as champion, fresh coat of paint. Everyone's back in the queue. Works for everyone.
It's 30 years since WrestleMania 9. Maybe Cody Rhodes, he struggles, but he can't quite win. Then at the end, the Canadian remix of Real American Plays. Sami Zayn comes down and beats Roman Reigns.
Let Cody have his moment. Let Cody have his moment. But maybe at the end we get a nice moment with KO, Sami, and Cody, all now new champions.
Yeah, the new era of
yes.
WWE.
Fun. I can't wait. I think it'll be great. We need to freshen it up just a little bit.
All right, then. Well, Ariel spoke to Cody Rhodes, and you can see that episode of Ariel Meets on both BT Sport and the BT Sport YouTube ahead of WrestleMania. It's all getting very exciting, and this is how you can buy the event.
Welcome to BT Sport Box Office. Anyone can enjoy a BT Sport Box Office event, and you don't have to be a BT Sport customer, have a BT ID, or a BT Sport login to do so. Here's how to buy using the BT Sport Box Office app. Follow the registration sign-up process and create an account. Once you're logged in, select the event you wish to watch and follow the instructions to purchase. You can pay with a credit or debit card and through your EE, O2 or 3 mobile bill. But if you've bought a BT Sport box office event before and already have an account, simply log in to bt.com/sport box office and select the event you wish to buy. Once you've bought the event online, download the BT Sport box office app to your mobile or tablet. You can also access the event online through our web player, or to view on your TV, you can cast the app using Chromecast or AirPlay on supported devices. And finally, remember you only need to pay online if you want to watch the event on the BT Sport box office app. Enjoy the show.
So there we have it. That's the end of this run-in preview show for WrestleMania LA. Has it got you excited?
Oh, I can't wait. I love this city. Haven't been here in a while. It's WrestleMania. It's the granddaddy of them all. It's the last stop before WrestleMania 40. A lot of things to be excited about. And you know what? I think for the past year and a half, we've been talking about The Rock this, The Rock that.
Don't even care.
Don't even care.
Don't even
Don't
care.
even care.
Don't even
You
care.
can stay home. Watch it on. By the way, order it on BT Sport box office, Rocky. All right. We'll see you there.
But if he is there.
Yeah,
that's
no, it'd
also
be great to catch up. We could do an interview. you know, just DM me. DM me, Rock.
Spoiler alert, it's Errol Meets The Rock comes out on Monday.
Woo!
No, that's absolutely a lie. Imagine. We'll see you after WrestleMania. Enjoy the massive weekend. It's WrestleMania 39.